Welcome to the Numbers Game. I'm Jason, and I'm joined with Nick and Marty, and we are back, baby. It's another season. We've had a bit of a rest. We are just geared up, excited, and ready to go. Nick, Marty, how are you both?
Going well, mate. Is it season 9? Where are we at? Season 9?
Season 9.
Wow, look at that. Look how far we've come, and another few seasons, and we'll be well into puberty, mate. So it's really excited to see what we're going to bring this season, and looking forward to talking about a little experience I had last week that I want to share with the listeners that I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment. Nick, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Marty. I'm good. Missing you. Having a day off today, so we don't have you in the office, which is unfortunately. It's just not the same vibe around here.
Love you too, mate.
There's a few staff that couldn't get in because no one was here early enough. You was usually the first one in with the key. So I was like, where the hell's Marty? Then I realised you had a week off. But, going well. Looking forward to season 9 and looking forward to hear what you're going to talk about today.
Well, before we jump in and get excited about something I thought no Bombers and Crow supporters would be excited to talk about, I'll just start by saying this episode's brought to you by the fine people at Innovate for all of your finance, broking, personal insurances, assets and commercial deals. They are the team for you. inovayt.com.au, and you can see more of what Nick and Marty and the crew at Innovate do.
So we've just got into curtains as well. Peach curtains being our latest addition. If anyone's watching this on video,
yeah, you'll catch.
I'm
Marty
a product of the '80s, and there's some things I just can't let go of. And next time I'll do that. That virtual back screen because I've got that much crap earlier in this podcast.
I'm telling you to leave the peach curtains. It's great. It's great advertising.
We'd have to bring some colour into the Numbers Game life. We're in black T-shirts and keep it very bland. You've added colour to our life, Marty, and often, speaking of adding colour to our lives, this episode, talking about Collingwood Football Club, you'll go into it, but I never thought as a Bomber supporter I'd be interested in what you've got to tell me about the Collingwood Football Club. What happened? How'd you get amongst this?
Got invited by actually Latrobe Financial to come along and have a listen to the leaders of the Collingwood Football Club. And yes, I was in enemy territory. Felt very uncomfortable as I walked in, and I certainly felt like I needed a wash almost instantaneously. But I thought I'll stay the path, and got to hear Jeff Brown, who's the president of the Collingwood Footy Club, Craig Kelly, who's the CEO, Craig McRae, who's the coach, and also Darcy Moore speak. And it was invigorating. There's something about being at an elite club, and we always cross the synergies of business and sport. But I really did come away with a lot of great insights, some that validated some of the things that you do, and there were other things that I thought were next level that I want to share today. And there was 5 valuable lessons that I'm going to share, gents, and I'd love your feedback on them as well. But just some of even the quotes on the night. Like Darcy Moore said something where he goes, if you're walking to work, don't bother turning up because we're running to win. Like they were just throwaway lines, but you could tell just that level of eliteness that these guys were, pumped to do well in life. And there was another one, another great quote from Craig McRae where he said, when there is no way, find a way. So no matter what the circumstances, like, how do you transcend performance in the greatest of challenge, even when you feel like you're 6 goals behind, which kind of reiterates some of the positions Collingwood have been in over the last 2 years, and just finding a way back and finding a way to win that almost as an audience takes you on a journey. Like I said, I've never seen supporters other than Collingwood supporters actually enjoy the Collingwood game and enjoy what they do, but that's certainly been something that more fans have spoken about in the last 2 years. So, and one of the key things they talked about leadership before I get into the 5 lessons was, why do you want to lead? And I thought, like every business owner, every manager, has to ask themselves that question. Is it for the title? Is it for, a financial gain? And they said you should always ask yourself that question. Why do you actually want to lead? And Darcy was saying to positively impact, inspire, and lead people to a shared vision of accomplishment. We're here to win premierships. Yeah, that's why they all want to lead and they're all on that path. And I thought was, and I took a young guy, Brendan Scott, in the office, very young fella. I've been obviously to these type of events before, but just to see someone coming into that environment who loves football and just walk away so invigorated, there's just something about that energy. One of the lessons that I thought was really valuable that I'm going to share, lesson number 1 out of the 5. What is our core business? So they basically said, don't diversify on your strengths, aka Collingwood letting go of the netball program to solely concentrate on winning games of football and winning premierships. So that was from Jeff Brown and Craig Kelly. And they said that was a really difficult decision because they were fantastic ladies. There was a fantastic organisation, and having the netball as a part of the club made so much sense on so many different levels, but they had to come to that conclusion that they were there to win games of football and to win premierships, and that was their core business. So don't leverage out from your strengths because it can create other issues in what you're trying to accomplish. Throw it open to you, gents. What do you think about that one? That's an interesting way to think. Nick?
Just a question. Did they, I'm just reading between the lines here, I assume they went into the netball play because of maybe diversity and I don't know, I could be completely wrong there. Why did they get rid of it? Was there problems? And I understand that. I understand what you said. Their primary objective was to win a premiership in the AFL, but were there problems that were?
I think it was more so that you almost get in footy and netball have always been in country footy. There's always a netball club linked, so there is some synergies there. But I think the issue was more for the fact that it was sort of a diversification where they had to think outside of their own capabilities around football and trying to make something work. Maybe, and I'm making an assumption here, but, maybe just thinking from a point of view of it's the right thing to do, right? As opposed to what is the core reason we exist for our community, for our teammates, for our supporters, and that was the reasoning behind it. They wanted to have an absolute clear vision on what it's like us with financial services, So, do we bring in, something that's outside of that would, like, let's say buyer's advocacy, like let's say real estate. Do we bring that in where it's a whole nother genre of operation, even though there are some synergies? We're finance at the end of the day, we're financial. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like, so that, I think that was the message I got from it.
It's an interesting one. I mean, that's a nice spin. And as if it was the Bombers, I would sit here and not ask any more questions or push the boundaries there. But we're always going to, want to poke the bear of the Pies. I mean, there's articles way back 2016, 2017. Eddie Maguire comes out and talks about all the benefits and the positives and the pros of why we're venturing into this netball and diversity and inclusivity and whatnot. And then I think, it's one of those things when they want to be a successful club. And I think the team had won 2 games in 9 or 10 rounds before they scrapped the season. But, you'd be thinking that if they were on the verge of winning the flag that year or the premiership and was going to be part of being a successful organisation that was profitable and, was easy to run, would you go, oh, it's not our core business, we're still going to get rid of it anyway?
Please don't let me get caught defending Collingwood here, but they wanted to focus on their women's program in regards to football. So that's where the diversity already is. But the key thing was football. That was the key thing. So that was what they were making very clear.
That's a really good point. I didn't factor in the AFLW.
Correct.
Yeah. So now that's completely clear for me because I'm sure it was a diversity play. So yeah, that makes total sense.
Well defended, Marty.
And when we were there, the women were actually training, in the AFLW. So yeah, it just locked in. They're there to win games of football, for their supporters, for their community, for their teammates in football.
Just before we move on, I do like the lesson there, Marty. If you're a business owner or even an individual, but focusing on business here, if you do diversify into something that is not your core and the issues that it can cause by varying and putting energy and resources into something that is not what you're going after, and we've over the years, we've tried to do at Future Advisory, just using our business as an example, dabbling a little bit too much into even like our core function of providing great accounting and advisory to business owners and individuals. But often every now and then we'll get a call which is like, hey, we need this project done where we need you to come in and spend 20 hours a week doing a project implementation on some kind of tech accounting software or some kind of big catch-up project. And we'll say yes and go, yeah, we can do that, love to, but it's not our core business and not what we do well. And often that's when we've made mistakes or dropped the ball with other clients because we've looked to do other things that wasn't our core and wasn't the right client that we look after. So I think it's a very valuable lesson that before you get distracted and try and diversify into things that aren't your core and aren't what you're known for and what you're famous for, you've got to be really careful.
Had the same experience, ran a finance company and decided people were asking us to sell their houses because they trusted us. So we had that level of depth of trust. And then we did that, of course, and it was a total distraction. And even though it worked, what it did was it took focus off that core business unit. So we had to spend a lot of energy to get that up. And in hindsight, it was a silly idea because we had referral sources that were real estate agents, and it caused a bit of a contagion effect as well. So you really have to think that through rather than just saying there's a natural diversification play based on what our clients are saying. So I took away from that and going, yeah, that makes total sense to me. The second key lesson was self-reflection is a key, from Craig McCraig. If something goes wrong, look within yourself before you look at others. What could I have done better? So it's so easy, isn't it? I as he said it, I thought you're always looking for a scapegoat other than you. And before you give any form of feedback as a leader, you always have to ask yourself, what could I do better? In fact, could I be the problem here? And reflect upon that before you start pointing fingers, because that is always the easiest way to go about it. And as a great leader, they all were very powerful in taking self-responsibility to their own actions before extending beyond that. Thought very powerful message.
I think it's a quality that probably underpins most leaders and most leadership styles. Really, I think reflection is everything. If you don't look at yourself first and the impact that you're having or not having, then you're not a leader, really. And most of us don't do it, or we do it sporadically. But I think I can't remember the book I was reading, but they were talking about doing that every single day. Like, get to the end of the day, almost like journaling. Just reflect on how the day went. This is quite a common tactic or strategy. Get to the end of the day. What did you do well? What did you do not so well? What's the one or two key things you're going to do tomorrow to improve? So yeah, that definitely resonates with me. Personally, I think I reflect a lot, but I don't go through and actually document it down. But I think that's a really good way of doing it.
Totally agree. And I do love the reflection piece. I think quite often we'll do that, on a more quarterly or annual basis or, but not really, take the time on a more micro level. As you said, the daily stuff. There's, quite often in the team, in the office, I'll turn around and go, that was an opportunity for us all to learn. But I still think there's more that can be done from a leadership point of view to actually own it and go, hey, that started at the top and we could have done this a different way, but moving forward, here's the lessons we'll learn from it. So there's also self-reflection in a quiet sense when you're away from everyone and you're by yourself, shutting down for the evening or looking back. But then I also think there's self-reflection that is a little bit more public and sharing the lessons with the team as well, so that it's transparent and vulnerable, and then that way I guess it opens up the space for everyone to feel like it's okay that if you don't get something right and something does go wrong, it is okay to reflect and share those lessons with the team in an open way.
Great synopsis there. Again, it's leading by example. I always think at the end of the day, what did I do? What did I do well? What could I do better? And what will I change tomorrow? And just those three questions just enables you to just adjust incremental habits and the way you communicate the next day. And again, you're always looking to improve. And I think that was certainly what come across is that leaders, through their actions and their communication, set the standard by example, and then everyone's working towards that same standard. There's no point saying something if you're not doing it, no matter how great it is. So it's it was I think that self-reflection point is a key, and it's you can be vulnerable enough to say you don't always get it right, and a lot of the times we don't. But as long as we can self-reflect and improve, that's all you can ask of anyone. And that's I thought that was a really good point. The third lesson out of 5, which I thought was good, water what you want to grow. Water what you want to grow. If people are displaying the actions, attitudes, and performances we want to see, we want to acknowledge and recognize people for it. And that came from Craig McCraig again. And I thought that was a good point, because he said he even has a challenge with that, even when he's edifying positive reinforcement on the values and actions that they expect as a high-level club. He goes, there's always something you go, you should have done this. Or look at that player, he should have backed up here or provided a shepherd. And you naturally go into that analytical defensive mindset of what could be done better and verbalize it. And a lot of the times you can spend 95% of the time there if that's what you're doing, trying to get better. So sometimes that's going to be required behind the scenes and one-on-one. But when you're looking to communicate, people reinforcing, doing the good things, more people want to do those good things. So you get this compounding effect and this integrating effect with people wanting to rise up to really, and credit where credit's due, right? It's not just thrown out willy-nilly and it's not fluff. It's like, these are the core things we expect. It's being delivered. We want to acknowledge that. And I thought, water what you grow. It just shows you why he's been in a lot of winning cultures, Craig McRae. So Richmond and Hawthorn. Played in the Brisbane Lions team that won premierships. And he said that's something that that gets reinforced in those winning cultures that you wouldn't think is because everything's under the microscope all the time.
It makes me think of positive reinforcement, or looking for the positives and getting around people when they do something good, rather than, I think humans, we're quite naturally wired to look for negatives or make comments when something goes wrong or when something's negative and say, hey, that's not how we do that. Don't do that again. Rather than when somebody does do something well or the right way and things go good, that's just kind of the expectation. Like, oh yeah, cool. But so I think there's more can be done for positive reinforcement when things are going well, getting around each other and really celebrating. And look, I think as well, water what you want to grow also makes me think that, like, investing in your people and your team training and having good culture, like that kind of investment there, that old saying of, what happens if we invest in them and train them and they leave? And then there's the other side of what happens if they stay and we don't invest in them or train them at all. You're just stuck with people that aren't growing and developing and learning. So I think that's a great little saying.
Yeah, I think again, if you build people up, as an organisation, you want to create an organisation where they want to stay ultimately. And again, if people aren't performing to those expectations that have been set, that winning attitude and actions that want to be taken, then they get exposed anyway. And that's the thing. It's that no one takes a backward step in giving feedback when it's outside of that, that expectation and culture that they expect to. So by positively reinforcing and people stepping up, it really exposes if someone does something outside of that, almost to the point where they already know. And then they have to decide whether that's a club they want to be at or whether the club wants them to be there. So there's an acknowledgement in regards to vulnerability that people make mistakes and that everyone's an individual, but there's also a set premise that, this is what we expect. And it's probably 4 impact points that are non-negotiables, and then people can be individuals within that. And when they're doing the actions and attitude on those 4 impact points, then they get validated. But if you're not doing that, it gets self-exposed, and that's the brilliance of it. They either fall away, those types of players, or they get managed out very quickly because they're not carrying passengers. So it might sound on the surface, water what you want to grow is a bit fluffy because you're not giving genuine feedback. Don't get that wrong either. You are getting absolute, absolute feedback in regards to how you're performing to the expectation, but you are validated. A lot of the times that bit's missed. So you're right, Jace. It's just got to make sure you acknowledge all of it.
Yeah.
Number 4, the diversity of opinions within leadership. So important to have different perspectives. We can all be right, we can all be wrong, or somewhere in between. So utilize the combined strength of leadership to create greater perspective and outcomes. Challenge yourself, your opinions, and your leadership. That came from everyone on the panel. They love the fact they could get to a stronger decision based off really powerful leaders in the organization, and they'll lean on each other to go, this is what I'm thinking, this is my course of direction. Am I missing something? Or I have a gap here and I'm not sure how to validate or fill this gap in this way forward. And they'll draw off other leaders in order to get to that direct path forward, which I thought's really good, because sometimes, like, if you don't know something, you might not want to feel exposed, right? That you don't know something, so you don't approach leaders in order to communicate and find other ways through. So people tend to go and go into hiding mode instead of coming forward, and never be afraid of not knowing something and drawing on the power of the combination of leadership and the collaborative leadership. Still, a decision needs to be made, and every leader is empowered to make their decisions in different divisions, but they're not solely rested on to get to that point just on their own, which I thought is a brilliant way to lead. And I felt good, Nick, about this one, because I feel like we do this a lot in drawing on each other because we have different strengths in different areas, and we know that.
Yeah, for sure. And we're very fortunate to be in the position that we're in. Not only do we have the 3 key leaders in the business, but we've got other leaders supporting us that we bring in. So, we have a department head meeting once a month where I think off the top of my head there's maybe 8 people in that meeting, all sharing ideas. And then we go externally with the board as well. So I'm just thinking about a lot of small businesses who'd be listening to this, and just really encourage people to get support. If you don't have 2 or 3 leaders in your business that you can continuously bounce off, make sure you've got a mentor, or make sure you've got a consultant that comes in external, just to give another voice, because although a lot of the times your thinking will be right, which is why you're a good business person, sometimes it's good to get another perspective on it. So, we are very fortunate that we've got so many good heads in our business. And Jace, I guess you're similar. You've got a few leaders in there as well, and you've all got different skill sets, same as us. We're all good at different things.
Yeah, completely concur. And I definitely agree with the message to business owners out there. If you don't have a sounding board, people you can turn to outside of your own kind of echo chamber, it's really important. If you want that diversity of opinions within leadership and you're one person running a small business, you're going to need to add something around you to be able to have that. And we, through a business coach, through, a little advisory board, through our own internal senior leadership team, as you said, department heads, super, super important. And it's kind of got us to where we are in the last couple of years by having a difference of opinions and difference of ideas and brains and energy coming into that room to help make decisions and guide the business forward. So I think it's paramount to success.
And Darcy Moore, obviously the captain of the footy club, Scott Pendlebury was the captain last year, and he goes, I'm so fortunate to be able to draw on that person's experience as a leader and he goes, and I cherry pick. He goes, I'm going to be my own leader. And I think that's the thing people forget about a lot of the time is, a lot of people go into being a captain of a footy club and go, how should I lead? How should I lead? But you've been selected based on the actions that you're displaying as a leader anyway. So it's just that continuous improvement and transcending what you know by continuously learning to lead. And he said, the power of going to Scott Pendlebury, he knew Bucks as well, Nathan Buckley, and he goes to Jeff Brown, and it's like quite amazing how they fast track their development through being very, very open on that. So I thought that was really powerful as well. Now the 5th one, the last lesson that I want to throw in there is learning from mistakes. We all make them, and it was powerful to see Jeff Brown basically in front of a group of 200-300 people accept responsibility around the racism issue and acknowledge it. He goes, "We were a racist club," and he goes, "It was so powerful." And this bloke's so steely. Like, I'd love to just negotiate just to be brutally bashed by him. It was like he's good at what he's doing. He's negotiated with Christopher Skase. He's like had a long running history of successful companies. He was on the board, I think, of carsales.com. So he talked about disruption and innovation, which was, all the things we talk about. But I really felt that was powerful to say that's what we were. And until we accepted that, we were always building a story to protect it. And he goes, as soon as we accepted it, we could then create a new program that ensured we were a leading club in regards to acceptance, inclusion, and how we respected each and every individual, regardless of where they're from and who they are. And it was powerful. It was like, you almost had a shiver down your spine going, wow. It's like an alcoholic going, I'm an alcoholic. Until that happens and there's an acceptance of that, then you can clean the slate and go, right, what are we going to do about this? And you're ready to move on. And I thought, and he's got, great friends. He's very close friends with Eddie Maguire, and, they're all interlinked. So from the past. So to me, knowing that, I thought, geez, that was a really steely, strong approach for a way forward. And sometimes as leaders, it might not always feel good to say something like that, but geez, it impacts everyone. I think really respected that.
Again, I keep obviously thinking about our business, but the sooner you admit that you were wrong on a decision, the sooner you can move forward. And we've made some wrong decisions in the last 10 years, and we admit them, and we stop, and we deviate, and we go a different way forward. I think having someone put their hand up and admit they're wrong is huge. And with business, you can't afford to hang on to something for too long, whether it's costing you money or whether it's a strategy that didn't work or whether it's something like you're talking about, Marty, with the racism piece, which is with different kettle of fish again. But you can't afford to not draw that line in the sand and start to move in a different direction. For some businesses, it can send them broke. And again, I know we're talking about a different scenario here, but you look at where that would have led Collingwood if they were still sitting here going, no, we weren't racist. You've got to rip the Band-Aid off and accept it, and everyone makes mistakes, and just be better and move forward. Or if it's business, try a different strategy if it's not working. Don't try and flog a dead horse, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, extremely, extremely powerful. And I, like I said, I acknowledge, even with him saying that, the hurt that would have been felt from people that had gone through that in the past. So even to say that, it can open up wounds again in the strength of that comment. But again, there's only one way forward, and that's to heal and find another way forward. And you're right, Nick. I think this happens more in business than we even recognize, because you do at some point, people do protect, a story, particularly if they've come up with it. So it's like, it comes down to the reality of what works, what's not, accepting it, and moving forward. But yeah, they're the 5 real impactful lessons. What is our core business? Self-reflection is key. Water what you want to grow. Diversify on the opinions of different leaders for strength, and learn from your mistakes. There's so many other stuff that I could talk about. Recruit the best people that we've talked about. Move on the poor performers. That's a general comment across many businesses. Leadership is an act of service, which I like. Leadership's doing something for people, for your community. It's amazing how much leaders actually sacrifice, and there's an acknowledgement of that, and that's okay, in order to come, to build the vision and execute on the vision as well. Just so many really great things, I took away. And what was one thing I liked too, you might not win the day, but you can win the moment. So even when you have a bad day at work, you can still have you can still have a moment where you can impact someone's life in the positive, or a positive result that you create out of an action. So you know how sometimes people go, "I just have one of those days." Yeah, we'll have a moment in that day. And, I think the great thing about being around footy clubs is just there's so many great things to learn from. And I took a lot out, more than probably what I realised. And the one thing, and this is a key that I took away too, the last key thing in my mind is great performers always want to build their teammates up. You know how some people can be great performers but be selfish? And he goes, we're not looking for selfish players. We're looking for people to meet high expectations of the club, be their best, be individual, and also extend that benefit to other teammates so they can be their best. And that's what great leadership is seeing someone, supporting someone to be their best as well as finding your best. Great lessons all around, lads. So I hope that that resonates with the audience and you can apply some of those in your own life and business, which I certainly will be doing.
No, very well said, Marty. And I think with Collingwood sitting pretty on the top of the ladder, it just goes to show that having good leadership and strong leadership is, one of the biggest ingredients to having success. And if you take that outside of football and Collingwood and apply that to your own life and your business, that's the message there as well, is that, if you want to be successful and you want to be amongst the best, have a look at your leadership and those things that you're doing and work your way through those 5 points and maybe the 6th bonus point about recruiting the best people that Marty threw in there as well. But guys, welcome back for another season of The Numbers Game. Thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute privilege to have you here listening with us today. And until next time, Marty.
Game over.